Listen to me carefully. There are moments in life when heaven becomes silent, not because God has forgotten you, but because God is preparing an answer so overwhelming that when it arrives, it will silence every voice that doubted you. There is a reward waiting for you that will shock everyone who watched you struggle, everyone who dismissed you, everyone who whispered that you would never rise again. This is not a small reward. This is not an ordinary outcome. This is a divine reversal, and it is closer than you think. Many people see only what is happening now. They measure life by today's pain, today's lack, today's delays. But God does not operate in moments. God operates in seasons. What you call delay, God calls development. What you call loss, God calls planting. What you call humiliation, God calls preparation. You have been misunderstood, not because you are wrong, but because you are ahead of time. And when the time appointed by God arrives, the reward will not just bless you. It will astonish everyone who thought you were finished. You must understand this truth deeply in your spirit. God is not unjust. Every tear you cried in secret, every prayer you whispered when your strength was gone, every time you chose obedience when rebellion would have been easier, none of it was wasted. God is a faithful keeper of records. Nothing escapes His attention. The world may overlook your sacrifice, but God never does. And when God decides to reward faithfulness, He does it in a way that leaves no room for doubt about where the blessing came from. There are people who laughed while you were obeying God. They said you were foolish to trust when there was no evidence. They said you were wasting your time being faithful when others were cutting corners and moving ahead faster. But here, this speed without God always ends in collapse, while obedience with God always ends in elevation. You were not slow, you were secure. You were not behind, you were being positioned. And when the reward manifests, it will not be gradual. It will be sudden, undeniable, and shocking. God has a way of turning hidden faith into public victory. For a long time, your work has been invisible. Your prayers were not applauded. Your discipline was not celebrated. Your integrity did not trend. But God specializes in bringing hidden things into the light at the right time. The same people who ignored you will soon ask how it happened so quickly. They will not understand that what they see in a moment was built through years of obedience to God. Do not misinterpret silence as abandonment. God's silence is often the sound of preparation. When God is quiet, He is working deeply. He is aligning people, shifting circumstances, removing obstacles you cannot see, and building strength within you so that you can carry what is coming. If the reward came before you were ready, it would crush you instead of blessing you. That is why God waits. That is why God tests. That is why God refines. There is a reward that does not come from effort alone. It comes from trust. You trusted God when logic failed. You trusted God when the numbers did not add up. You trusted God when your emotions were exhausted. That trust is powerful. Trust moves the hand of God. Trust invites divine intervention. And when God intervenes, He does not do things halfway. When God blesses, He blesses in full measure. Some of you are standing in the middle of opposition right now. You are doing what God told you to do, yet resistance seems to multiply. Understand, this opposition is often proof that you are close to breakthrough. If there were nothing ahead of you, there would be no resistance against you. The intensity of the battle reveals the value of the reward. What God has prepared for you is so significant that the pressure increased. But pressure does not mean defeat. Pressure means transformation. God is shaping your character because your reward will require strength, humility, and wisdom. God is not only interested in giving you something, God is interested in making you someone. A reward that shocks everyone must be carried by a heart that honors God above applause. That is why you were tested in private. That is why you were corrected when no one else noticed. God was building depth so that when elevation comes, you will not lose yourself. Do not compare your journey to others. God has custom designed your path. Some people rise quickly and fall quietly. Others rise slowly and remain standing. Your journey may have felt longer, harder, but it is producing endurance. And endurance attracts divine reward. God is not impressed by appearance. God is moved by faithfulness. When you stay faithful under pressure, you qualify for a reward that cannot be explained by human effort alone. There is a moment coming when your obedience will speak louder than your explanation ever could. You will not need to defend yourself. You will not need to justify your choices. God will answer for you. The reward will speak. The transformation will speak. The peace, the provision, the favor, these will testify that God was with you all along. And those who once doubted will stand in quiet amazement. Understand this clearly. God does not reward to impress people. God rewards to fulfill purpose. The blessing is not the end, it is the beginning of responsibility. What God gives you will not be just for you. It will be a channel, a testimony, a sign that obedience to God is never in vain. That is why the reward will be visible. That is why it will shock people. God will use your life as evidence of His faithfulness. Right now, you may feel tired, but do not stop. You may feel unseen, but do not withdraw. You may feel stretched, but do not surrender. The reward is closer than your emotions suggest. Faith, it is not the absence of struggle. It is the decision to trust God despite the struggle. Keep walking. Keep believing. Keep aligning your life with God's will. Heaven is watching your consistency. God has not brought you this far to leave you where you are. Every closed door was protection. Every delay was alignment. Every disappointment was redirection. When you see the full picture, you will realize that nothing was wasted. God was orchestrating something far greater than what you were asking for. That is why the reward will exceed expectations. It will not just meet a need, it will redefine your future. There are people who tried to limit you by their opinions. They projected their fears onto your faith. But God is not limited by human perception. God sees potential where others see problems. God sees calling where others see weakness. And when God decides to reveal what He placed inside you, no voice can stop it. The reward will rise above criticism, above history, above statistics. You must prepare your heart now, because sudden blessing can be overwhelming if you are not grounded. Stay humble, stay grateful, stay connected to God. The greater the reward, the deeper your deep end. Dance on God must be. Pride can destroy in one moment what obedience built over years. Remember who sustained you when nothing was visible. Remember who strengthened you when no one applauded. That remembrance will keep you aligned. The reward that is coming will not only change your circumstances, it will change how people perceive God. They will see that faith is not weakness. They will see that obedience is not foolishness. They will see that trusting God produces results that human effort alone cannot achieve. Your life will become a living testimony, not by words, but by visible transformation. Do not lose heart now. This is not the time to retreat. This is not the time to compromise. This is the time to stand firm. God is about to honor what you honored. God is about to reward what you protected. God is about to reveal what He prepared. And when it happens, it will be clear that no human hand orchestrated it. You are chosen for this moment. You are refined for this season. You are strengthened for this reward. Stay faithful to God. Stay sensitive to His direction. Stay bold in your trust. The reward you receive will shock everyone, not because you are perfect, but because God is faithful. There are seasons when God deliberately strips away every visible support so that you learn the sound of His voice above all others. When you have nothing left to rely on but God, your faith becomes pure, unpolluted by pride or self-sufficiency. That is where real power is formed. Many people want the reward, but they resist the refining. Yet God never releases great reward into an unrefined heart. What feels like isolation has actually been divine focus. God has been teaching you to stand alone so you can stand strong when the reward arrives. You must recognize that God often allows pressure not to break you, but to reveal what is already inside you. Pressure exposes conviction. Pressure reveals loyalty. Pressure separates surface belief from deep trust. When you chose to keep believing while everything around you tried to convince you otherwise, you proved something to heaven. You proved that your faith was not conditional. And unconditional faith always attracts uncommon reward. There are unseen battles you fought that no one applauded. You fought discouragement. You fought fear. You fought the temptation to give up quietly. God saw every one of those moments. God counted every decision where you chose integrity over ease, obedience over comfort, faith over panic. The world rewards visibility, but God rewards faithfulness. And faithfulness is never loud. It is consistent. That consistency has been building something powerful behind the scenes. God does not rush outcomes because rushed blessings often create shallow roots. What God is preparing for you requires stability. It requires maturity. It requires wisdom. That is why the process has stretched you emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. You are becoming someone who can carry weight without collapsing. The reward is not just coming to you, it is coming through you, and it will touch more lives than you realize. Some people mistook your patience for weakness. They mistook your silence for surrender. They did not understand that restraint is strength when it is guided by God. You were not passive, you were disciplined. You were not inactive, you were waiting with purpose. God honors those who know when to move and when to stand still. That discernment is rare, and it is rewarded greatly. There is a difference between striving and trusting. Striving exhausts the soul. Trusting aligns. You reached a point where you stopped forcing outcomes and started surrendering control to God. That surrender did not make you smaller, it made you free. And freedom is the environment where God releases abundance. When your heart detached from desperation, heaven moved closer. God is about to surprise you in ways that defy your past limitations. What once felt impossible will soon feel inevitable. Not because circumstances changed, but because God stepped in. When God steps in, effort is multiplied. When God steps in, doors open without struggle. When God steps in, the same people who doubted will witness results they cannot explain. Be prepared for the shift in relationships that comes with divine reward. Not everyone can celebrate what God does in your life. Some will struggle because your reward exposes their compromise. Others will feel challenged because your faith confronts their excuses. Stay gentle, but stay firm. Do not shrink to make others comfortable. What God gives you is not arrogance, it is assignment. God has been training you to listen more than you speak, to observe more than you react. This inner stillness is not emptiness. It is authority under control. And the reward manifests, you will not need to announce it. Its presence will be undeniable. Quiet confidence carries more weight than loud explanation. God is teaching you how to walk in favor without losing humility. There are cycles that are ending now, patterns of delay, patterns of struggle, patterns of misunderstanding. God is closing chapters that no longer serve your calling. Do not mourn what is ending. Celebrate what is making room. You cannot carry yesterday's burdens into tomorrow's blessing. God is lightening your load so you can move faster when the moment arrives. You may feel an inner stirring you cannot fully explain, a sense of expectancy mixed with reverence. That is not imagination, that is alignment. When your spirit aligns with God's timing, anticipation replaces anxiety. You no longer ask if it will happen, you prepare for when it happens. That preparation is faith in action. God is not responding to noise, God is responding to obedience. While others complained, you remained faithful. While others demanded signs, you trusted without them. That kind of faith moves heaven. God delights in rewarding those who do not require constant reassurance. Your quiet trust, He has spoken loudly in the unseen realm. Understand this deeply, the reward will not erase your past, but it will redeem it. What once caused shame will become evidence of transformation. What once looked like failure will become foundation. God never wastes pain. God repurposes it. Your story is being rewritten not by denial, but by redemption. As the reward approaches, guard your heart. Success can test character as much as struggle does. Stay anchored in gratitude. Gratitude keeps the heart soft and the spirit receptive. Remember the nights when you prayed with tears. Remember the moments when you held on with nothing but faith. That memory will keep you grounded when others place you on a pedestal. God's timing is precise. Not early, not late. Perfect. What is coming now could not have come before. You were not ready then. The environment was not ready then. The people involved were not ready then. But now, alignment has taken place. Heaven and earth are moving in agreement. That is when sudden change occurs. Do not underestimate the power of staying consistent when nothing changes. That endurance has marked you. God trusts those who do not abandon their values under press. Trust from heaven leads to authority on earth. Authority on earth leads to impact beyond personal gain. The reward will stretch your vision. You will think bigger, dream wider, serve deeper. God does not bless small hearts with large assignments. Your heart has been enlarged through patience, humility, and faith. Now it has room to hold what is coming. You are not stepping into something unfamiliar. You are stepping into what you were prepared for. Every lesson, every delay, every test was rehearsal. Nothing about what is coming is accidental. God is intentional, and His intentions never fail. Stay attentive, stay obedient, stay faithful. The atmosphere is shifting. The season is turning. The reward is no longer distant. It is unfolding. And when it fully manifests, it will stand as undeniable proof that God honors faith, exalts obedience, and never forgets those who trust Him fully. There is a sacred weight that comes with trusting God beyond what your eyes can confirm. It is the weight of surrender, the kind that bends the knees of pride and straightens the spine of faith. When you reach the place where you said, God, even if nothing changes, I will still trust you. Something shifted in the unseen. That declaration was not weakness, it was authority. Heaven responds when faith is no longer negotiating outcomes, but resting in God's sovereignty. Many think that reward comes as a response to effort, but divine reward responds to alignment. When your heart aligns with God's will, your life becomes a conduit for His purpose. That alignment cost you comfort. It cost you certainty. It cost you the approval of people who only believe in what they can measure. Yet God values alignment over applause. What is coming will not just validate your journey. It will reveal that God was directing every step, even when the path seemed unclear. God sometimes allows you to walk through seasons where your prayers feel unanswered, so that you learn the difference between trusting answers and trusting Him. Answers can satisfy curiosity, but trust transforms character. You did not walk away when clarity delayed. You stayed. You believed. You waited. That patience refined your spirit, and refinement attracts divine release. God entrusts reward to those who will not misuse it when clarity finally arrives. There were moments when your faith felt heavy, when believing felt like lifting something too large for your strength. Yet each time you chose faith, God infused you with endurance. That endurance is not passive, it is resilient. It is the kind that stands upright under pressure and refuses to bow to despair. God is drawn to resilience because it mirrors His own faithfulness, unchanging, unwavering, constant. The reward that approaches will challenge your understanding of limitation. You have learned to survive within boundaries shaped by past disappointments, but God is about to expand your capacity. Expansion often feels uncomfortable at first. It stretches identity. It confronts old self-perceptions. But God never expands without intention. What He enlarges, He fills. What He fills, He sustains. Be aware that when God elevates you, He also sharpens your discernment. Not every open door is meant for you, even after blessing arrives. Discernment protects destiny. God has been training your spirit to recognize peace, not just opportunity. The reward will come with choices, and those choices will require wisdom. The same God who prepared the reward will guide you through the responsibility it brings. Your obedience has been speaking louder than your circumstances. Even when outcomes lagged behind effort, heaven recorded your consistency. God does not measure success by speed, but by faithfulness. That is why the reward will feel sudden to others, but intentional to you. You have been living in preparation while others were only watching results. There is a holy courage rising within you now. Not arrogance, not defiance, but quiet strength rooted in trust. Courage born from knowing that God has carried you through storms you never thought you would survive. That courage will be necessary because the reward will place you in rooms you once prayed to enter. When you stand there, remember that you did not arrive by chance. God opened those doors. Do not be surprised if the reward comes wrapped in responsibility rather than comfort. God's blessings often arrive with assignments. What He gives you will require stewardship. What He entrusts to you will require humility. You have been shaped not just to receive, but to manage what others may not be able to carry. God is rewriting narratives that once defined you. Labels that limited you are losing their authority. The past no longer has the final word. God's voice overrides His story, and when His voice speaks favor, no past failure can disqualify you. Redemption is not denial of the past. It is God declaring that the past no longer controls the future. There will be moments ahead when you will be tempted to explain how far you have come. Resist the urge to justify. Let the work speak. Let the fruit speak. Let the peace in your life speak. God's rewards do not need defense. They carry their own authority. Silence in the presence of blessing often communicates more powerfully than explanation. Stay anchored in reverence. Reverence keeps success from corrupting the soul. It reminds you that everything you have is sourced in God's mercy, not your perfection. The higher God lifts you, the deeper your reverence must go. That balance will preserve you when visibility increases. You are stepping into a season where prayers you forgot you prayed will begin to surface. Desires you released because they seemed impossible will return with new form. God did not ignore them. He was waiting for the right time. Timing transforms desire into destiny. Remain attentive to the inner prompting of God. He often whispers direction before He reveals reward. Sensitivity, His guidance will keep you aligned as the pace of change accelerates. This is not a time to rush ahead or lag behind. This is a time to walk in step with God's leading. What is unfolding now is not random. It is the result of long obedience, quiet trust, and unseen faith. The reward is not arriving to impress the world, but to fulfill purpose that has been forming within you for years, purpose shaped by patience, refined by endurance, and sustained by trust in God. There is a hidden strength that God deposits into those who refuse to abandon hope when hope feels unreasonable. This strength does not shout. It does not seek validation. It endures quietly, rooted in the assurance that God's promises do not expire because circumstances delay. When you held on without proof, without applause, Without reassurance, you are not merely surviving, you are being fortified. That fortification is essential because what God is releasing next will require strength that cannot be borrowed from emotion or opinion. God often waits until your dependence on outcomes dissolves before He releases outcomes themselves. When your joy no longer rises and falls with external change, your spirit becomes stable ground. Stability invites trust. Trust invites responsibility. Responsibility invites reward. This is the divine order that cannot be rushed. You have been learning how to stand firm even when the ground beneath you seemed uncertain, and that firmness is now becoming your advantage. Some of the greatest shifts in life do not announce themselves with noise but with clarity. Suddenly confusion lifts. Doubt loses its grip. Direction sharpens. That clarity is not coincidence, it is alignment. God brings clarity when a season is about to change. What once required constant effort will soon flow with grace. What once resisted you will begin to cooperate. This is not because you forced it, but because God aligned it. You were shaped in places where no one saw your struggle. God met you in thoughts you never spoke out loud, in fears you never admitted, in prayers that barely formed words. Those encounters were sacred. They taught you to recognize God not only in blessing, but in silence. That recognition has matured your faith. Mature faith does not panic when progress seems slow. It trusts the process because it trusts God. There is a humility that comes from waiting on God with our tea becoming bitter. Bitterness hardens the heart. Humility softens it. You chose humility. You chose to remain teachable. You chose to keep your heart open when it would have been easier to close it in self-protection. That openness allowed God to continue shaping you without resistance. A soft heart is not a weak heart. It is a responsive one. God has been refining your motives. You may not have noticed it, but your prayers changed. You stopped asking only for relief and started asking for wisdom. You stopped asking only for speed and started asking for direction. That shift revealed growth. God entrusts greater reward to those whose desires have matured beyond urgency into understanding. There is a divine balance between patience and expectation. Patience waits without complaint. Expectation watches without fear. You have been learning both. You waited without accusing God, and you expected without demanding. That posture honors heaven. God has drawn the hearts that wait with reverence and expect with humility. As your season turns, guard against the temptation to measure yourself by the reactions of others. Not everyone will understand what God has done for you, and not everyone needs to. Validation is not required when God has already affirmed you. The reward is not an argument to win, it is a stewardship to manage. God does not elevate to isolate, but elevation often reveals who can walk with you and who cannot. Some connections will fall away not because of conflict, but because of divergence. Do not chase what God is removing. Trust His wisdom. He sees beyond emotional attachment. He knows what relationship can sustain you in the next season and which ones cannot. You have been taught restraint for a reason. Restraint preserves strength. It prevents premature exposure. God has been teaching you when to speak and when to remain silent, when to act and when to wait. That discipline will serve you well when opportunities multiply. Without restraint, abundance becomes overwhelming. With restraint, it becomes sustainable. There is also a deep peace that God gives before significant change. Not excitement, not restlessness, but peace. Peace settles the heart so it can recognize what truly matters. If you feel that peace now, honor it. It is a signal that alignment has taken place. God is not rushing you. He is ready in you. Your faith has been tested in private so it can stand in public. God never showcases what He has not first strengthened. When others see the reward, they will not see the years of unseen endurance behind it. But heaven knows, and heaven responds with precision, not haste. You are not stepping into a moment. You are stepping into a continuation of God's work in you. Nothing ahead is disconnected from what came before. Every delay was preparation. Every challenge was instruction. Every quiet season was formation. Remain rooted in gratitude as things begin to shift. Gratitude anchors the soul when life accelerates. It keeps success from distorting perspective. It keeps blessing from becoming entitlement. Gratitude reminds you that everything flows from God and returns to Him. What unfolds next will carry both beauty and weight. Do not fear the weight. You are built for it. God does not place heavy responsibility on fragile faith. You have been strengthened layer by layer, moment by moment, decision by decision. Stay attentive. Stay surrendered. Stay faithful. God is faithful, and His faithfulness is now meeting your obedience in ways that will unfold steadily, purposefully, and unmistakably under His sovereign hand. Now hear this with your whole heart. This is the moment to decide who you will be when no one is watching, when obedience costs you something, when faith demands more than comfort. God is not calling you to perfection. God is calling you to surrender. Lay down the excuses you have carried for years. Lay down the fear that has kept you small. Lay down the voice that tells you it is too late or that you are not enough. God never asked you to be enough. God asked you to trust Him. Examine your life honestly. Ask yourself where your loyalty truly rests. Ask yourself what you have been holding on to that God has been asking you to release. Alignment is not a feeling, it is a decision. Make the decision today to walk uprightly, to live with integrity when compromise feels easier, to honor God even when the reward is not immediate. What you honor determines what you receive. Let your faith move from words into action. Let your prayers be matched by obedience. Let your belief be proven by how you live when the pressure is real. God responds to a heart that is fully yielded, not partially surrendered, not selectively obedient, fully yielded. That kind of life becomes a vessel for divine purpose. Renew your purpose by returning to reverence. Stand in awe of God again. Remember who sustained you when nothing made sense. Remember who gave you strength when you had none left. Gratitude will realign your heart. Reverence will steady your steps. Trust will open the way forward. Do not leave this moment unchanged. Rise with resolve. Walk with courage. Live with conviction. Let your life declare that God is faithful, that obedience is powerful, and that trust is never wasted. Step forward with a heart anchored in truth, a spirit surrendered in faith, and a life committed to honoring God above all else.